Welcome back everyone to episode 8 of our tutorial series on Distant Worlds Universe. In this episode we're going to cover kind of like what you do in the waiting period after you've started researching warp field precursors but before you actually have it. So there's a lot of, there's some balancing issues that you have to take care of, like whether or not you should send out your construction ship again, or is it better to wait and just get hyperdrive before so he can very quickly go to his target. We'll also be talking a little bit more about research, how to make sure you never have something not researching. And I'll talk a little bit about upgrades in research versus new designs. So basically passive versus active effects. And we'll also be upgrading our spaceport for the first time. So we'll look at how to actually manually upgrade something. And I think most of the episode is going to be filler until we get to hyperdrive technology in the next one. So we'll be time limited. I mean, this game only goes up to 4x max. So a lot of this time I'm going to be just letting the game run in the background while we just speed ahead until the point where we have the technologies we need to do the next thing we want. However, I decided to come back in because we will be also talking about pirates in this episode. You can see in the top here, we have encountered a new empire in the system, the Boscar Authority. This is a pirate group, and usually, I would say, if you're playing with pirates, 90-95% of the time, the first empire, the first diplomatic contact, I wouldn't really call them an empire, but the first diplomatic contact you have is with the pirates. And they're going to make you pay money. Basically, the way to deal with them is to throw money at them until they go away. You can either throw a little bit less money at them right away, or you can wait longer, in which case they'll demand more money. I think that's probably the less efficient way of dealing with it, although I won't showcase exactly what the difference is here, but from experience, if you wait until they have a whole armada outside your home planet, they're going to charge a little bit more. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the game. The very first thing we'll be doing actually is retiring this ship, which we originally encountered, the abandoned ship that we conquered over here. So I'll just showcase how this ends up translating into a technology boost. So there it is. Also off camera, we completed research in space, construction, entertainment, and armor plating, which means now we're working on medical systems. We've moved from space construction onto hyperdrive, and the weapons research really isn't that important, but we finished armor plating. So here, now we'll see down here that he's going to start unbuilding, so deconstructing. And when this is done, we should get a bonus to some technology, and pop. There it is. So we got target tracking, which is a pretty decent one. I would say that's not bad. It says here as well, there's an actual pop-up. So we can go to high tech, and up here at the top, target tracking is now 43% researched. And I think I already explained the mechanic, but it just at random grabs a component that you don't have researched already, and whatever one it randomly grabs, it gives you a huge chunk of research in that particular topic. So that has now happened. We can continue marching forward. I guess now would be a good time for me to talk about research a little bit more in detail, the passive versus active. The first time you research a new tech or a new tech line, I don't really know what to say, but this is what I'm talking about here. Down here you're going to see the actual research that results, the project that results from this research. Oh my gosh. Excuse me. So for beam weapons, we see that it's Pulse Blaster. But when I move over to Enhanced Beam Weapons, we see that it changes to Maxos Blaster. That means that if I research beam weapons and I put my Pulse Blasters on, and then I later research these Maxos Blasters, I have to retrofit all my ships with a new design, which removes the Pulse Blasters and now adds the new Maxos Blasters. So it requires a redesign of the ship, and it requires a retrofit for this better technology to be put into use. Now that's a little bit different if you see down here it'll say improvements to Maxos Blaster. This means that at the exact moment you finish the research, all the Maxos Blasters you have, or ever will build from that point on, immediately jump up in effectiveness from whatever stats they had here to the stats of the new research technology. So you can see this is a lot better, it's preferable. But they usually, in order to give you an interesting choice, they'll have technology lines which have this improvement, but it dead ends at the end of that improvement. and we see that here, that I could go into a third tier of Maxos Blaster. If I do that, my Maxos Blasters would be very efficient and I don't have to retrofit anything. The downside is that's dead-end research. I can't get to the much better beam technology if I do that. I mean, there's nothing to stop you from doing that and then getting to the higher technology, but you might see it once you get down to advanced beams. Advanced blasters are just a waste of time. You can't take anything from that technology forward with you. So it gives you an interesting decision when you get to the second tier, whether to go to third tier or to start investing in your future. And me being min-max, I always like to invest in my future as soon as possible, because that makes me better in the late game, which is where I find things really matter. I mean, things matter in the beginning, but maybe with diplomacy or whatever, we can just get away with slightly less efficient weapons to make us that much better at endgame. Now, this is situationally dependent. There's times when I certainly would choose this. If you're about to go to war, or if you're already at war, or if you're heavily threatened, this is going to be better. Not only do you not have to retrofit your ships, but usually the last line of a technology is slightly, ever so slightly better than the first tier of a new technology. So of these three, I'd imagine that Advanced Blasters actually has the best result for you, on top of the fact that you don't have to retrofit your ships. So that's what I wanted to say about research. Another thing is, you'll notice that I've already queued up to 5. So we have enhanced beam weapons, which is finishing. Then we'll get improved logistics to reduce the cost of soldiers, just troops, not ships. Then we're going to get enhanced missiles to give us another option. And the reason why I'm only going into here is because I don't have any missiles yet, but if I decide to get these, I'll actually be able to get the improvements to concussion missiles later to make them better. So I just want to have them as an option I can throw on ships, and then we'll make them much better by researching this technology. And then I went 4-5 so that I can get to the next technology of this, which we probably will focus on this first. Hopefully I can wait all this way before war happens. If not, I can always just right-click and change that to my number 5 instead. But ideally, we will get as far as advanced beams before we start going to war with people. Now, it's really good to queue up a lot of things in the future, because remember, you can always just change it later by right-clicking and left-clicking. However, you don't want to reach a point in time where you research the last thing in your queue and nothing is being researched. There's not really a warning for this. All you're going to see is a bunch of green dashed lines or purple dashed lines will appear in this little box indicating your current research progress. But that's obviously very inefficient to be researching nothing. I don't think points carry over, so you're just wasting points. Alright, so that's enough about research for now. We'll go into like super advanced research topics later, but I think that's probably enough that you have a very good feel for how things are in terms of research. So we'll go ahead and move forward until this 74% one gets to 100%, which means that we will have both entertainment systems and medical systems, which will allow us to make our first upgrade to our home port, which is going to improve the population happiness there, which is good. So we're currently at 99, 34. This goes up over time as your population increases, etc. But also our happiness is going to go up by a huge chunk as soon as we get this last medical systems thing, and we improve the port to give it medical facilities and an entertainment system. And we're really closing in on that. Probably one more tick. And there we go. Alright, so at the same time, weapons finished, and also, so it's actually, there's not going to be a pop-up for this one, because the pop-up is overridden. Oh, and there's our pirate offer as well, so a lot of things happen all at the same time. I'm going to start with the medical systems first. We'll come back to this pirate offer in a second. To upgrade your existing port, we're going to go to, I always have all designs, and I go to state bases, which we're already at. Here's our home port. And instead of editing, you can't edit because that changes the design which is currently in play. So if you hit edit, it's going to bring up this pop-up window saying, you cannot edit this design, it's already in use. So it's going to ask you to copy as new if you want to create a new design. But when we want to upgrade, we don't copy as new, we actually do manually upgrade design. This is going to append the Mark II, or if we're already Mark II, it'll append Mark III to that instead. And it'll also automatically upgrade anything that's currently at an obsolete component to the latest component. An example of this, which we don't have right now, but is small fuel cells. Once we finish this next technology, we will actually have standard fuel cells, which just have a capacity of 65 instead of 55. So it's just, they're identical in every way except for that. So it's obviously an advantage to have this. It'll get us a little bit further. So when you do manually upgrade, it'll automatically exchange all your small fuel cells for standard fuel cells. So it does something automatically when you do the manually upgrade button. But most importantly for me, it just appends that Mark II, which I like to use. And what we're going to do is actually change. This is identical because we don't have any technology components that have been upgraded. We just have new technology we want to add outright. So we'll go ahead and add a medical center and a recreation center. Now, it doesn't really explain what these do exactly, but they basically help your the home planet by improving its happiness. So we'll save the Mark II, which is just completely identical except for these two components. We'll save, and now we see the home port is obsolete, has this tick, which you can, you can control yourself. But the way it automatically does it is sensible, and I usually don't mess with it. So we'll leave the home port as obsolete, which just means it won't show up in the menu of options for us when we control right click to build something. Home port won't show up, but Home Port Mk2 will. Since I don't have these obsolete, they would also show up, so I'll showcase this. I'll leave, let's just leave medium port, and I'll make large and small obsolete. So when we right click to retrofit, we should only see the option to retrofit to a medium spaceport or to the large spaceport, meaning the Home Port Mk2. So that explains upgrading. If we close this, we can go to our spaceport, large spaceport, and now if we retrofit, now it automatically knows the closest match, and it'll only give you one option here. So it says retrofit to the latest design, which is the Home Port Mk2. So it knows that we were at the home port and that the manual upgrade for that should be the Home Port Mk2. And you can see this only costs 360 credits to do, so it's very, very cheap because we only added those two components. Not only that, but it'll build extremely fast because our planet has a sizable population at this point, and that's only a very few components to build those two items. Now, if I was to control right click, which brings up the entire retrofit menu, you can see that because we made the others obsolete, only the medium spaceport and the large spaceport appear here. Now, it doesn't make sense for me to change this over. I almost never do. I usually just manually upgrade. When you're swapping one port type over to another port type, I usually feel like that's because you made a mistake. We'll try to avoid that. So we're just going to go ahead and upgrade for 360 credits to the Home Port Mk2. Click on that, and let's just watch how quickly this finishes. Just a few days, and oh, it already finished. So I didn't have a notification that popped in here immediately. Retrofitting for the base is already complete. What this is going to do is increase our happiness from 35, should go up to by 8 to 43. And there, okay, so it's up to 42. I wonder if we lost, I think it's 4 each, I'm not sure exactly. Or maybe the algorithm is not exact, but it increases our happiness, which is good. It's eventually going to allow us to tax this population more, and they still want to stay. Now let's get to this pirate issue real fast. They're offering protection. This is completely a mafia shakeup type thing. Well, it'd be a shame if your ports started to, I don't know what accent that was, but you get the point. They're trying to coerce you into paying them money for protection, but really it's paying them money not to attack you. If you don't take this first option, they'll come back with a bigger ship, as I think I already mentioned this, but they'll come back with their whole fleet, and they'll demand you pay or they will kill you. So you get 2 chances. It's better to take the first one because it's cheaper. The next one will be like double the price, and we plan on paying these guys money for, quite a few years. So saving money for like 6 months, for like double the cost for multiple years, not worth it. All right, so that is pretty much all I wanted to cover in this video. It's the research, the upgrading the ports. We showed actually scrapping the old ship. Right now, I think we are supposed to have some construction ships which are, not doing anything because I'm an idiot. Let's get this guy over here to actually repair this destroyer, because we do want to capture this one. You can see it's right now, it shows up as abandoned. So the sooner we get over to that and the sooner we capture it, the better, so that we can, well, what we're going to do is just the same thing. We're going to retire it, because the ships you find in your home system, they don't have hyperdrive. And because we don't have the components that they are built with, we can't upgrade the design to have hyperdrive. So they're kind of useless. You always just retire them because there's no point in keeping them around. Hyperdrive is just so necessary for everything in the game that these are just much easier to retire. And I'll show you a trick about retiring those. You can actually retire them to your construction ship which is pretty cool. So anyway, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. We actually got transport systems, which is going to allow us to build resorts and passenger liners. But what I'm going to do is speed forward off camera until hyperdrive technology is researched. And when that's done, I'll come back on. Or if there's another important event, I'll come back on. So this is all kind of downtime until we get hyperdrive technology. And the one thing I was going to mention about the construction ships is, so this construction ship, Majestic Interlude, has completed its mission. The gas mining station is up and ready. We're going to move it back to Usulea 3. And we're going to do the same thing with our exploration ships when they're done, which it looks like they're still exploring. Note the trick that you can have one exploring the system, this system, but you can have the other ones explore the system just by using all systems in Sector A2. What they do for all systems in whatever sector is they just go to the closest unexplored body or asteroid or planet, whatever, in the sector that they're currently in, and that works effectively the same as just asking them to explore quote unquote this system, except for when this system is finished, they'll actually start moving to the next area in A2, which is unexplored. Without hyperdrive, that's pretty useless. I mean, they wouldn't have the fuel or the speed to basically ever get to the next system. However, when this first one who is supposed to explore the star finishes, it'll report its mission complete. And when it finishes, we know the other ones should be done with this system as well. So we can send them all back to our home planet. And the reason we do that is because the construction ships and explorer ships alike are both going to wait for hyperdrive technology. And they want to be right next to the home port, and we will even refuel them for even more min-max craziness. We'll have them refueled and ready to retrofit to the upgraded designs which have hyperdrive, so that they're immediately ready to go as soon as that technology is available. You know, if they're over here or something, wherever they stopped exploring last, you first have to move them home and then retrofit them. So it's better to move them back to the planet like we're doing with this construction ship. And then once they get closer, we'll control right click and we'll hit refuel at nearest refueling point. And then we'll just let them hang out around the planet until they're done. Okay, so speaking of which, our tenacious beggar just finished, which means that if we control right click now, explore this system, its mission is complete, which means basically there's nothing left to explore in this system. So that means we can start moving all of these ships back to our home planet. And same thing, once they get close, we'll just refuel them, and then they'll be sitting by our planet ready to retrofit once our new technology, hyperdrive, is complete. The point at which I stop sending construction ships out, new leader was elected. Okay, this happens with democracies, so every now and then you'll have a new leader. Oh, this new happiness, decreased war weariness, which we didn't have anyway, but that's fine. So we have a new leader. I haven't gone into leaders quite yet, so we'll cover that in a later video. But as I was saying, the construction ship, I generally stop sending these out when the technology for hyperdrive is currently being conducted around 50%. So after 50%, I feel like sending them out, they will actually get there slower than if they just stayed and did nothing for the last half of the research. Because hyperdrives, once they get them, if they waited the last half and got hyperdrives, they probably still end up arriving before their non-hyperdrive counterparts who left 50% of the research time earlier. So around 50%, I stop sending my construction ships out. They'll just hang out around the planet waiting to get upgraded with hyperdrive technology the moment it's available. And another benefit of that, even if they wouldn't have beat their counterpart to the planet, they certainly are going to beat it back. So remember, once you go there, you still have to come back before you retrofit. So it's a good idea that you do all of that before you leave. So once our technology is at 50% or more, I'm going to keep everyone, explorers and construction ships, at the home planet, just waiting to be upgraded. So last thing we're going to do is just, this one's refueling. We'll get this one to refuel at nearest. And where are you? Yeah, you're probably close enough that we can refuel at nearest refueling station as well. Great, so I'm going to call this episode to a close. In the next episode, it's going to be pretty exciting because we should be all speed forward a little bit until we get to the technology for hyperdrive finished. and then we'll be making a lot of changes. All of our ships need to be upgraded, including our civilian ones. So you can expect a whole episode just dedicated to arriving in the warp drive era. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next.